Welcome to Real Herbalism Radio, show 258, recorded at Big Dog Studios in Eugene, Oregon. This show is made possible by the Herbal Entrepreneur Conference. Introducing the third annual Herbal Entrepreneur Conference, a 5-day virtual event for herbalists who want to build a plant-based business, held March 22nd through the 26th. The host, Yolanda Joy, has pulled together an incredible lineup of speakers, including Rosemary Gladstar, Margie Flint, Nancy Phillips, Lucy Jones, Talal Al-Ahmed, and many more. Get your free ticket to the Herbal Entrepreneur Conference at Herbal Entrepreneur now. Ace High Graphics is your place for custom face masks, shirts, and hoodies. Visit them at acehighgraphics.com. No matter where you are in the world, the plants will find you. Some of us are lucky enough to grow up with herbal medicine as just part of life. But what happens when you move and find out everyone else forgot the magic of the plants? Today we're talking with Alyssa Humann, certified herbalist and mid-level health coach, owner of the persistent Pestle Apothecary and Tea Shop, and professional Witchy chick, about finding the magic of plants anywhere you are. Now here are your hosts.
I'm Candace Hunter.
I'm Patrick Hunter.
And welcome to Real Herbalism Radio. Hey Alyssa, welcome.
Hey guys, thank you so much for having me on.
I am so glad that you're here with us today. You've been kind of inspiring for me lately with looking at all the different witchy approaches you've had to life and dealing with all the crazy that's been happening.
Oh my God, stop. You're going to make me cry. I have been listening to you guys for 5 years.
5 years?
Yeah. Well, was it 5? Maybe it's 4. So it was as soon as I started my herbal education, I was scouring the internet for science-based, homey, loving education. Mm-hmm. And I found you guys, and then it became something that I listened to all the time.
Well, now you're going to make us cry.
Yeah, exactly.
Missed you.
I'm glad. I'm glad that we weren't too crazy.
I'm here for it.
Okay, so quick question, because we never get to talk to a listener.
Yeah.
So is there a favorite episode? Something that stands out?
Oh man, that's difficult. I do love the episodes, but I did get really crazy for the Herbal Nerd Society, and I did a lot of reading that way. Nice. You guys, when you guys go into the nerdier side of this is how this corrects a synapse, and this works with this hormone, and that was something that was really, really awesome for me. But I know you guys did an episode on street herbalism about first aid and stuff like that, and I took reams of notes on that one because Dalton and I are pre-COVID, we were pretty active on the protest scene. So having those tools in my pocket made me feel so much better of being able to help people as needed.
Lovely. And Dalton is?
My husband. Sorry, I should say that. Yeah.
No, that's cool. I just wanted to make sure that everybody knew that you and your hubby have adopted herbs as your passion. That's really awesome. And that was something that you grew up with, but did he grow up with herbs as normal life?
No, actually, I didn't either. It wasn't until we got married that I started to get really into it. I mean, as far as herbs are concerned, I had traditional Filipino grandma stuff, having soup when you're sick, things like that. But no, we didn't have any of that. We actually grew up in the military. So we had ibuprofen was medicine, and that's pretty much all the doctor gave you. Ibuprofen or antibiotics, which one?
Okay. Well, for some reason, I thought that you had some kind of connection with Germany and just the normal, where herbs are normal. You have a sniffle coming down and you just take the elderflower tea, and that's just what you do.
I did grow up in Germany because we were in the military. Mm-hmm. So that was around, and I always thought it was fascinating, but it wasn't something my family practiced. Sadly.
Okay.
That was off base.
So it was...
It was off base, exactly. Exactly.
Nice.
Yeah, so I had friends that would give me elderflower tea, but it was just something that we had at their house. It wasn't a normal thing. But that's when I had linden for the first time, and that's my favorite tea.
I love linden. Oh, that's my like favorite when I'm traveling. I always end up going, okay, where's a co-op or a natural food store? Because I always forget to bring it with me. And then I end up buying a box while I'm traveling because it's so soothing. And traveling makes my nerves jangled. I mean,
same.
It's nuts.
Same.
Yeah. So what was it like living in the South then? Because you guys did that, right? I mean,
lived down south.
And was the plant culture there? I mean, I've never lived in the South, but the herbalists like Phyllis and Thomas that I've spoken to who are rooted in the South all talk about a lot of that stuff as being just normal. Like there's a lot of normal.
Yeah, so I lived down south because, and I don't want to get into this too much because it's not it's just a part of my backstory, but I was actually there for a ministry school.
Oh, cool.
So I wasn't really around a lot of other people, I guess. So sadly, I don't really know much about the herbal culture, except for I know Asheville, North Carolina is like the boom-in place for if you want to practice herbalism. But I wasn't super aware other than like the farming community, which was awesome. Like there were always herbal teas at every festival you went to.
Nice.
But yeah, it was really cool. They had booths and stuff. Probably the first time.
How was it that you like really got into the herbs then? Because it sounds like you were like close, like you were skirting by them along the way.
Exactly. So it was really, it's a funny story. I had a dramatic spiritual experience, like a kind of uprooting one. And I was kind of like in the depths of despair, really. And my husband and I were watching a show and there was an herbalist on it. And I was like, I pointed at the TV and I pressed pause. I was like, do you think that's real? and he goes, I don't know, look it up. So in that moment
Google
of the 30-minute TV show, I found it and it clicked. Nice. And I was like, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. I'm going to have a shop just like that. And it was just in 30 minutes, everything that was on the outskirts
suddenly
came into view.
Wow. That's powerful.
Can you share the show?
Yeah, it's Grimm. It's actually a sci-fi fan.
Yeah.
Filmed in Portland.
That's what brought us here. It's an incredibly nerdy thing from my life. I fell so in love with the show, and we, for one of Dalton's birthdays, we went across town and found all the places that it was shot in, and that's how we saw the city. I was like, I want to move here, and then we did.
Nice. It's an excellent place to be an herbalist too. We have so many resources, so many really brilliant herbalists here. So
and there's so many people that are open to it here.
Yeah.
It's a little harder here sometimes too because it's almost like you're preaching to the choir.
Yeah.
I mean, especially in Eugene, where we're about 140 miles south, 105 miles south.
2 hours. We're 2 hours south of Portland.
And there, you can trip over herbalists here.
Yeah.
And we have a small community in comparison. So.
We've put out the call to all you herbal product makers. The Real Herb Market wants you. We're looking for herbalists who make the best herbal products to join our sellers crew. If your herbals are handmade, sustainable, and of the highest quality, pop over to the Real Herb Market and fill out the form. For more info, visit realherbmarket.com.
So Grimm brought you to Portland. Portlandia allowed you to stay. And what inspired you once you were here, because there was a period of time where you had to move, get here. And then what inspired you, what kept you moving forward, pursuing the herbal dream?
Yeah, so I have always been, as I mentioned before, just like incredibly nerdy. Like I am always reaching for something new. And something that I love about herbalism is we're still finding like more information about how these herbs work. And what really drove me into like becoming a health coach and starting to help people kind of incorporate it is because I had so many people ask me, well, how does this work? How does it work? Like, it was almost the vibe of like, are you selling me snake oil? Right. But then when I started explaining stuff, they were like, oh, she knows how this works. This is great. And that kind of became a platform for me to kind of launch off of, because people kept asking and kept asking and kept asking.
Nice. Yeah. One of the things that I've noticed is that, because I know you do a lot of witchy things, which I also do. And one of the pieces I've noticed is that if I can use the language of science also to talk about the herbs and the language of traditional medicine to talk about the herbs, people suddenly find that the magical stuff is not as scary and wrong, and they're not uncomfortable with it. Suddenly they're like, oh, well, it works because of how the chemicals are working, or once they start to get it, oh, the plant makes those essential oils to protect itself. That's why this is a protective essential oil to use, or whatever. It makes a difference.
Absolutely. We've been talking so much in my circle of friends about magic and medicine, and how not to get too woo-woo, but I really don't think you can separate magic and science. No. Because how do you explain that if you put on music, dance, and have some chamomile tea, the cortisol starts to leave your body? Right. Like, yeah, that's magical, but it's so scientific in its root. But once I started doing the magic stuff, it like piled on in this cool way where I keep learning stuff, so I keep getting to educate people, and that's what's like pulling me along. Yes.
Hold on just a second.
Here, what are you doing with your phone?
I am turning my phone off. I'm shocked that it was on. I never have it on. Someone turned my ringer.
Oh, yeah. Someone turned your ringer on.
It was probably my son.
I got to make sure that mine's off now. Okay.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
Well, now I have to check mine to make sure. Yeah. Okay, cool. We're on sleepy mode. We're on mute. Perfect.
Okay. Now that we have our
the magic of science, right?
Right.
Technology. Exactly. Yeah, I've been lately thinking that science is really just magic that's been explained, and magic is just science that hasn't yet been explained.
Exactly.
It's really the same thing.
Absolutely. And then I tell people too, like, when you get into like crystals and stuff, incorporating that into your life, I'm like, if it's just a pretty rock, it's just a pretty rock. Science still made that, and that's really cool. Right.
And the science of it is it's a pretty rock, and things that are pretty typically tend to make us smile. And when you smile, that causes chemical cascade of changes in your body that help increase, let go of the, like you said, the cortisols, and increase the, I forgot that chemical name. I'm so bad with the words, but increase the chemicals of happiness. I mean, it helps shift your mood. So,
witches love serotonin.
Yes, thank you, serotonin. That is one of the hardest things for me. I always forget the important words right as I need to say them.
That's one of the funniest things about educating about herbs is you have to come up with these roundabout things, because even though I like those words, they'll be like, what?
Sarah, what? She moved out last year.
Love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Where did you end up going to school then? Because or where you got certified?
Yeah, so after that whole Grimm thing, I was like, I want to have the most legitimate degree, because I know that in Germany you can be like a licensed herbalist with a degree and all that stuff, but here in the US you can't. Right. So that's how I found the American Herbalist Guild. And then I used their little search engine thingy to find someone that I thought vibed with me, I guess. I just like clicked on a bunch of things until I found what I wanted. And that's how I found Holly Bellabono. So at the Bellabono School of Herbal Medicine, that's where I did that. And it was an incredible experience, because the way that she teaches is all situational. So she'll be like, this is what happens in the body. These are some ways that you can address it. And then boom, here's someone that walks into your office. They have a cold, but here are some underlying factors. And
nice.
Her approach to formulation really helped me build my own practice because it was so like building block-y.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's where I got my certification.
Was there any revealing moment during that training? Anything that it just made it so much easier, or were you just all in from the second you started?
Oh, I was all in. It became kind of like falling into the rabbit hole of everything became about it. Like I was listening to like y'all's podcast, and then I started paying for Herb Mentor with I started paying for that. And then I was buying books and checking out books at the library. And we had this tiny little co-op that had herbs. And so I started just buying things in ounces so I could taste it all separately. And yeah, it just became like all encompassing, and it's only grown from there. I tell people I just live in my apothecary because my stuff is all over the house.
Oh yeah, you're a proper herbalist when you find that there is herbal tinctures percolating or macerating in your closet, in your bedroom.
Exactly.
When you look under the stairs, there's some bags of herbs there that are, they're waiting. They're in the process. Everything's like oils are over here and over there and back there too, because, you ran out of space. It's just the way it should be.
Exactly. And when I started my business, we lived in a 1-bedroom apartment with our infant. Yeah. So the whole kitchen was just mine. And my husband kept having to ask me, okay, do I wash this or is this an herb thing? Nice. What is this dish? What is this jar?
Yes.
As my wife would say, they're all herb things.
Yeah, exactly. They are. I mean, just don't touch it. You do the cooking. We'll be better that way.
Just don't touch it.
Yeah.
So is your store a brick and mortar then?
It's in process.
Okay.
Ooh.
So what's cool about this house, this is another witchy thing. We were looking for a house and I stopped in front of this one and I was like, this is it. This is it. And so we took a walk through, and then we found out that the basement and garage are zoned for a business, and then the top is zoned for residential. Nice. So I'll have to send you guys pictures once it's clean, because my husband took some time and completely finished the downstairs and has made it into this beautiful workspace. And he's started to already work on like the retail section. All we have to do is the garage and the storefront.
Oh, that's exciting. That is
so COVID exciting. Projects.
Yes. It's amazing how much you can get done when you're not allowed to go to the office.
Exactly.
That is really exciting. So how is it that you ended up discovering, because Holly, she sounds like she talked more about the sciencey part and the medicine, medical, like in a medical approach. How did you happen to cross the witchy part, or how did you incorporate that?
Yeah, so I was a pretty devout evangelical Christian until I had this pretty traumatic spiritual awakening, as they usually are, right? Yeah, right. But then I fell off and I was nothing for a long time. And then I stumbled across a book. What book was that? Oh, it was Hildegard of Bingen.
Ah, yeah.
It was one of her books where she started talking about like the science of herbs, but then also what it does for the spirit. And then that led me down another rabbit hole.
Oh, yeah.
There's always Hildegard. Everything goes back to Hildegard for me.
Yes. And she's quite popular for an awful lot of people, actually.
Yeah.
It's powerful.
Yeah.
Do you mind sharing your event? Or is it too personal?
Oh, no, I would love to share that. I just didn't know if that would be something your people would be into.
Well, I mean, you were going down one path. You came to a fork in the road and you went to another path. So usually that's a pretty dramatic shift from what you're talking about. So you've mentioned it twice now. So now I got to pry.
Right. And I can't help but mention it because it was so big. So there were really two of them. As I mentioned, I lived in the South because I was going to a ministry school, and I found out that I was grifted. My degree was fake.
Oh.
And so
oh my God.
I had this moment of time where I was just like binge watching Grimm and crying a lot.
Yeah.
And then I saw the character and I was like, that's it. I can see it. There's a light at the end of the tunnel. I'm climbing out of this really serious traumatic event. And so even before I claimed my witchy self, I did like a banishing burning thing where I burned my fake degree and then I bought my books and it was fun. But then when we moved to Portland, I had thought that I found a church that was going to stand by the things that I believed as well. And then we got kicked out for some of the things that we believed. So I was like, I'm not going to do this anymore. Yeah. You know, it doesn't feel good and it doesn't feel right for me in my life. And I don't want my kids to be raised this way. So that was the big shift. And after I kind of like shook off the dust or whatever, I was able to kind of see things how they were. And I've always connected to the earth. You know, like when I was 7, I talked to trees. Like I read my Anne of Green Gables books to my tree. Right. And, you know, like all of these kind of witchier, quote unquote, things. And like being able to find myself back in these spaces and not only seeing it as a spiritual thing, but also my career is really powerful. It was a really big shift.
That is powerful. Oftentimes we talk about shamans and medicine people as being wounded healers. And a lot of times the reason that we talk about them as being wounded is because they've gone through something that traumatically changed their view of the world. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times to be a really good healer, you have to have actually known what it was like to not be healed. You have to know the before and the after so that you can guide people through the dark space in between. And you made it through those spaces, and now you're in a place where you can help people who aren't necessarily comfortable straight away with the witchy part, but they get the science. Or people who aren't entirely comfortable with the science part, but they get the spirit. And you've got the ability, you've got your foot in both of those worlds. So that's powerful.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm pretty proud of where I've come. I mean, this was a really weird thing to happen in 5 years, like to go through an entire spiritual like uprooting and figuring stuff out and then having 2 kids and starting a business. It was just wild, but it felt so natural. Like it really was like the idea of being a seed, and a seed thinks that it's breaking when it's about to go through the soil top. Yeah. And now all I talk about is herbs and magic. So.
Right. And I imagine there's an awful lot of joy there too when you're doing it.
Yeah. Definitely.
Do you have a time that you're going to open, or with your project you're going to open your shop?
I mean, our projected time we hoped would be next summer, but with all of the COVID things, we're kind of just trying to figure it out, and we're trying to invest well because I want to take like the entire garage door off and make it into an actual like storefront.
Nice.
But there are a lot of changes going on in the city as well, as far as like what's going to become a retail street and what's going to stay residential. So we're keeping our ears out. I hope that once both of the kids are in some sort of preschool in school, to be able to have it completely open so I can be there all the time.
That would be lovely. 'Cause we've done the juggling, house, work from home, and raise a kid. In our case, also to have 2 basset hounds that love to play and bark.
Aww.
And everybody learns that when dad's on the phone, everyone's got to be quiet. You know, I mean, it's tough to juggle all of that. And then when dad gets off the phone, he's supposed to tell everyone they can make noise again.
Yeah.
So it's got to be challenging, I'm sure, having 2 at home with hubby trying to get his stuff done, and you trying to get, orders prepared and all that.
So you're online though?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I am online. I'm very online, as they say.
We're all online, but is your business online?
Yes, it is. I've been open for business for 3 years.
Okay.
And then I've been like selling off of my Instagram for like 4.
Nice.
Cool. Well, that's great. I mean, we'll have that link into the
I was
show
going to say,
notes,
so
of course.
where can people get a hold of you?
Yeah, so it's super simple because all of my handles are the same. So I'm pdxpestle.com, PDX as in Portland and Pestle as in mortar and pestle. And that's my Instagram handle and my email address. So you can always find me there.
pdxpestle.com.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. That's me.
And your website is also the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
pdxpestle.com.
She like me. Mud Pot Design. Everywhere I go.
Yeah. That's smart.
It's just easier to remember.
Right?
I
There's
was-
a lot to be said for easy to remember.
Right.
It's frustrating though when you go to one social network that you can't
Yes.
get your name.
Yes.
You got every other one, but you can't get that one.
That one. Yeah. Yeah.
That's when you turn the E's into 3s and stuff like that.
Yeah. Right.
Right. So, anything else we want to see about your path into herbalism?
My path into herbalism.
Anything else?
I guess all I really wanted to also mention is that as an herbal educator, I've done a lot of writing for a lot of different companies.
Okay.
So you can find me on Herb Mentor. You can find me on Crystal Star's website. I actually did a huge, like an herbal breakdown for lemon balm because that's like my favorite herb ever.
Nice.
But yeah, that's kind of me. It's what I'm all about, honestly, is helping people figure out how they can make this a part of their everyday life because we've lost it and it needs to come back.
Yes. Yeah. We've got some articles of yours as well, and I love your writing. It's very approachable and easy to connect with. I mean, and very practical. I mean, that's what it's about, right?
Exactly.
Cool. Well, if you're are you a Portlandia fan?
I watched a couple of clips last night because someone made me, and the humor is like not usually my type, but there's some funny skits.
Well, when you live in Portland, in this area, you start to see those characters.
Oh yeah, for sure.
One of the skits was put a bird on it, right? So we took that idea and said, hey, put an herb on it.
Yeah.
Yes.
So at the end of our show, we're going to say it, but we want you to join in now.
Okay. Ready.
So you ready?
Yeah.
As always, put an herb on it.
About herbs and remedies have not been evaluated by the United States Food and Drug Administration, FDA, and are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent disease. All information provided on this podcast or any affiliated websites is for informational purposes only and is not intended as a substitute for advice from your physician or other healthcare professional. You should not use the information on this podcast and its affiliated websites for a diagnosis or treatment of any health problem. Always consult with a healthcare professional before starting any new vitamins, supplements, diet, or exercise program before taking any medication, or if you have or suspect you might have a health problem. Any testimonials, questions, or case studies are based on individual results and do not constitute a guarantee that you will achieve the same results.